Cool. Okay, Rupert is now going to come and share a short thought for the day. So, over to you.
There's a picture that will come up here, a painting of Noah's Ark by an artist called Marc Chagall. I find this a deeply disturbing picture. It's not the neat, reassuring picture that we often imagine of smiling animals going in 2 by 2, or the calm seas, or the rainbow over the ark. Instead, the canvas is alive with chaos, swirling waters, twisted figures, a world coming undone. And in one corner that's so small it's easy to miss, Chagall paints a woman holding a child. I think you'll see a close-up of it here. Many see this as Mary holding the Christ child there. But what is striking about this is that they're not inside the ark. They're not sheltered. They're not lifted above the danger. They're in the waters, in the storm, in the flood itself. I find this a profoundly disturbing image. And it asks a question that I think sits at the heart of Christmas. Where is God to be found? Where does God choose to be? Where does God make his home? Because if we answer that question honestly, not just theologically, but practically and pastorally, it changes everything. And this is where John's gospel takes us in the reading that we heard. In the beginning was the Word. This cosmic opening of the gospel, vast, eternal, mysterious. And then in verse 14, it takes this astonishing turn. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling amongst us, or in some translations, made his home among us. He made his home with us. Not visiting us, not passing through, not checking us out, but he moved in. God took up residence in our neighborhood with our uncertainties, our noise, our unfinished stories. The gospel doesn't pretend that the darkness disappeared. In fact, it states quite clearly the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The darkness is still there. The gospel doesn't deny it. The gospel doesn't minimize it. It simply insists that the light is real and present and shining right in the middle of everything that is unresolved, which is exactly what this painting shows. God is not only in the ark, in the places of safety and order and resolution, but God is in the flood. In the places where life comes apart, where nothing is neat, where the waters rise quicker than our strength is able to resist them. And this is why, as Joe said last week through the mic, Christian hope is not the same as optimism. Optimism says, it'll be fine. Things will work out. It will get better. And there's nothing wrong with a good bit of optimism, right? We all need those things to look forward to cheer us up, to brighten us on our journey. But optimism is fragile. It depends on circumstances. And it evaporates quickly when life doesn't follow the script. But hope is made of sturdier stuff. Hope says life is hard and God is here. Hope takes the darkness seriously. Hope doesn't try to tidy it away with cheerful predictions. Hope doesn't require us to pretend. Hope says, into this world, this weary, complicated, and often disappointing world, God has chosen to dwell. Into this life, your life, my life, the life we're actually living, God has moved in. Hope is not the confidence that everything will improve. Things may improve wonderfully, or they may not. Life is full of both. Hope is the confidence in the presence of God, not in the perfection of circumstances. And sometimes, and this is the most surprising and amazing thing, that sometimes we can discover God in the flood in ways that we cannot discover God in the ark. Not because the flood is good, but because God is there. And we meet him in the raw places. We meet him in the chaos and the uncertainty and the pain, the places where our illusions of control have been washed away. A while ago, a friend of mine was going through a very difficult season. Everything around him, it felt like, was collapsing. Some things were happening because of the choices that he had made, some because of other choices, and some simply because life sometimes can be profoundly unkind. We talked for a long time, and after a while he said, "What I really want to know is, what is God's will?" And what I think he meant was, how can I get back to how it was? Back to the place before all of this, back to the version of life where not much had gone wrong. And I understand that longing. I mean, many of us, maybe most of us, know what it is to look back on an earlier chapter of our life and wish we could return there. A time when things were simpler or safer or less painful. A time before decisions were made or hearts were broken before loss or illness or disappointment or change. But I don't think God works backwards. The good news of the gospel is not that life can unwind or rewind. It can't undo the choices made by us or others. It can't erase the things that have happened. There's no way back to the imaginary perfect life that sometimes seemed possible when we were younger. But God does what God has always done. God enters the world as it really is. God steps into our actual story, the painful one, the complicated one, the unfinished one, and he says, "Here, this is where I am. This is where I will be with you. This is where I will bring life." So I think the question is not so much, how do I return to the life I used to have? But the question is, how might God bring healing and life and redemption in the place where I am right now? So the good news of Christmas is not that everything is okay. The good news of Christmas is not that everything will be okay. It's not that circumstances will inevitably improve. The good news of Christmas is this: God has made his home with us. Full stop. In this world, in this darkness, in this season of our lives, God has not moved out. The light shines in the darkness. In your darkness, in my darkness, in the darkness of our families and our stories and the world in which we live. And gosh, is there not a lot of darkness? But the darkness has not and will not overcome it. And I think this is what Chagall saw when he painted Mary and the baby, the child in the flood. A God who comes not when life is tidy, but when life is real. A God who can be found not just in the ark, but in the flood. A God who is at home with us, all of us, and with us all of the time. And that is our hope. It's not optimism. It's not denial. It's not wishful thinking. But hope is the quiet, stubborn, radiant truth that God is here. Here in whatever life holds today. Here in whatever we carry into this Christmas and into our tomorrow. The Word became flesh and made his home among us. And he has not left. Let's stand and sing again as we pause on these words of John's Gospel and the words that I've shared, the hope that we have, and reflect on the darkness around.